What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to do a pretty much full revo method for the Temple of Aminishi. This dungeon is relatively difficult. The monsters, the like trash mobs in the dungeon, have some KO potential, as well as most of the bosses being relatively difficult fights to learn. But I think once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad, and honestly, the amount of GP you can make from this dungeon is absolutely crazy. So it's definitely worth learning. Alright guys, so very quickly to go over this preset, you can see the relics I'm using. The only thing to really note about this is you don't actually need conservation of energy, but it does definitely help out. And then Death Ward can be swapped out for Persistent Rage if you want to be standing around rebuilding after boss kills or before boss kills. If you find that you're not really in need of the Death Ward protection. For the familiar, the Blood Reaver is obviously the best here. A lot of the monsters can be poisoned, or you can also use a Ripper Demon. The Seiryu can't be poisoned, so the Ripper Demon actually kind of does something against that boss, but that boss is so easy it shouldn't really matter that much. For the gear setup, you can see we just have like Cinderbane gloves for the poison. I find the Reaver's Ring helps a ton for this method because of the Death Skulls, Scythes, and the Volley of Souls. So definitely a pretty good ring to be using that. You can bring like a Luck of the Dwarf switch if you want. If you're learning, I would highly suggest using the tier 90 tank armor Death Warden. This will definitely help you out quite a bit. You can obviously use the first Necromancer robes, but that will be a little bit more damage taken, and you can kind of take a lot of damage here, especially when you're learning, so you might want to use the tier 90 tank set. For the weapons, you could get away with tier 90s here. You shouldn't really need the tier 95s, but they obviously do definitely help out. I would highly suggest getting a Zuck Cape. I do have a video about a low effort Zuck Cape, but the Zuck Cape helps out a ton for this method. And then obviously we're just using Vampirism for the healing and poison damage, and then a Scripture of When. You can see the inventory. It's a pretty standard inventory. We just have some prayer pots and food and Cerebrews. This amount of food and prayer should be able to get you through a full dungeon run without banking. And then you can see we also have like the Excalibur and Shard and stuff. And then we also have a Overload and a Weapon Poison. And then we have the Super Prayer Renewal. And then finally, you can see at the bottom right of the Overload, that is an enhanced replenishment potion. This potion is really, really good with Revolution necromancy methods because it makes the 3 skull Death Skulls rotation, or Living Death rotation, very, very easy to pull off. As for the perks on this gear, it's just pretty much standard best in slot PVMing perks. Just have some decent perks on your gear and you should be fine. Alright guys, so you can see I am here at the Temple of Aminishi, but before we get into a dungeon run, there are a couple of things that I am going to be going over here. The first thing is going to be my additional action bars. You can see I have these 2 additional action bars set up for this dungeon run. You could probably fit all this on 1 bar, but these are very easy to set up. You just hit that little gear and then you go into the combat and action bar settings here. And then you can see here in the display additional action bars, you can have, you know, whatever bars you want to be displayed on the screen. And I would highly suggest at least setting 1 bar up with a couple of these things. Mainly, we want to be able to conjure the Undead Army, use Invoke Death, probably Vuln Bomb, which I should go get, and then Threads of Fate, some replenishment potion maybe if you are using that. And then there are a couple of defensives that I find to be incredibly helpful for this dungeon. The first is going to be Devotion. This is really helpful to have for a few of the mobs, but mostly for Masuda. And then also Freedom. A few of the mobs can stun you, so you could like Freedom the stun. But this is also going to be mostly useful for Seiryu to be getting out of the stun when we get pulled down from the crystals. And then just like some food keybound, movement abilities keybound, the split soul ability on here, maybe some prayers, which are going to be useful. But that's pretty much it on the additional action bars. And then I also have this main action bar set up here, which I should probably move this into the correct position. This main action bar set up here, you can see I took Living Death out of my bar here. I would highly suggest taking Living Death. You can just leave this gap here. It won't make any difference, but I like to manually be casting Living Death for this dungeon because it doesn't really help that much in the dungeon portion itself. you know, so you might as well just be manually casting it. And then also, I really like to have the Spectral Scythe here. You can see it is outside of the Revolution portion of the bar. I like to be manually casting my Spectral Scythe just because, again, we don't want to be wasting all of our adrenaline on the Scythe, but you do want to have access to it because it is ridiculously good for clearing out the mobs. So let me just grab these Vuln Bombs here, and then we can start up the dungeon. So for the Temple of Aminishi, I'm probably not going to be speeding this up. I'll just put the action bar on screen. But yeah, I'm not really going to be speeding this dungeon up. I think there's a ton of information that you can get out of just me talking through this at normal speed. It's not really like ED2 or something like that where the dungeon is like stupidly easy. These monsters are actually, I guess, kind of dangerous. Well, not these ones specifically, but there are quite a few different monsters that can absolutely wreck your day in this dungeon. So, you know, just turn on all your buffs, use darkness here. It definitely is worth using darkness. And then, you know, turn on your prayers. And then I like to be bladed diving diagonally through the staircase here. And then we just have to kill these 4 monsters over here. It looks like one of them got lured here or something. But you only have to kill the 4 guys that initially spawn next to the doorway here. And you can easily do that with like a Death Skulls and then maybe a few Scythe casts here. So we'll just get in the middle of these. No, I guess not. And then we can run down here. And you can see there is this giant pile of 9 guys here, this guy, and then these 8 here. We have to kill all 9 of these guys, and then this door over here will open up. And this is mainly where I like to be using the Scythe. You can see here we are just going to spam out a few Scythes, and this should pretty much clear up as many of these guys as you possibly can get. You can see here it'll just nuke them all, and then we just have to do 1 hit on that little guy. And that will pretty much open the door with those 3 Scythe casts. And then I like to go through the dungeon here and kill these guys. These guys can stun you. The stun doesn't really last that long. It's not like super dangerous. Even if you do get stunned, it's kind of whatever. But yeah, these guys can stun you. So I guess just kill these pretty quickly. I guess it doesn't really matter, you know. And then we surge through the next doorway here. And this is where I like to be reconjuring. So we reconjure here. Definitely like maybe life transfer if you want, and then ghost ability. And this is where I like to be using the Threads of Fate. So we will Threads of Fate here, and then we will sap and volley. And it ideally will be able to kill all these guys in 1 shot like that. And then you can see here how I hug this right-hand wall here. As long as you're hugging the wall like this, these 3 guys on the opposite side won't be able to see you, which will definitely help you out for this portion of the fight. Because you don't have to kill these guys at all. You only have to open 1 of the doorways here, and you can see with Death Skulls it should open it pretty easily. And then we are into the R-Hat land. This place sucks. So once you get familiar with the pathing here, you can do this diagonal bladed dive surge thing, and you should be able to get through this pretty quickly. And then I like to be killing these 3 guys down here. There is a trick that I'm going to be showing you here to be luring the R-Hats so they don't like screw up your Sanctum Guardian kill. But honestly, it's kind of like you're better off probably telling out. But the trick I can show you here is if we go behind the Sanctum Guardian, and you can see these 4 squares here, you can see how I stand directly behind the 4 squares, and all of the R-Hats will pile up like behind these blocked tiles. If you stand in the center, the Sanctum Guardian is not actually like a blocked monster. Like the creatures can just go directly through him, like just phase through him and then attack you. But I'll put a little video on screen here of like how to be bladed diving over the water spout. But I think for most people, I'm just gonna telly out here and reset the R-Hats. So you can see here how I telly out, and then we go back to the dungeon really quickly. Make sure you continue and then teleport at the box. Go to the second option, and as you can see, when I get back to the dungeon, the R-Hats have despawned, and we will be able to kill the Sanctum Guardian in a much easier manner than trying to do the bladed dive thing where you go over the water spout behind him. So I'm just going to be showing this because I think this is going to be more applicable to most people doing a low effort run. But for this boss fight, it is very simple. All we have to do is we stand on the left side of center of the Sanctum Guardian, and then the water spout will come out, and then we just run to the right a little bit, and then the water spout will end back in the center. So then, you know, we can completely dodge it super easily. And then the other mechanic you get is like a purple smoke bomb. You just go over here and drop the smoke bomb out of the way of where you're standing. And yeah, this boss fight is very simple. So I like to be conjuring here, using Invoke Death, commanding the ghost, and then we start up the fight here. Just pray soul split, and you can see here we will be building back up to 100% for our living death, which will get us a ton of extra damage here. So you can see here we get to 100%, and then we will living death, adren pot, and then we will be able to very easily use death skulls here. And then you can see here we walk to the right, and then this little water spout mechanic will end in the center, and it will be very, very easy for you to dodge just like that. Like, that is definitely the easiest way to be dodging this mechanic. As you can see, it's incredibly easy. And then you get this big purple smoke cloud and a bar, and we just simply go over here and just drop it out of the way of where we're going to be standing, and then run out of it, obviously. But yeah, very easy to be dealing with the mechanics of this boss fight with the method that we're doing. And yeah, as you can see, it's just super, super easy. And you should be able to just revo this thing down very simply. And then we just, obviously are moving back into position here. Ideally, we would have gotten that 3 Death Skull rotation, but I kind of griefed myself. You probably can also life transfer. You can see there we'll drop the smoke. That was definitely not the cleanest drop. And we'll just wait for this. Definitely not the cleanest drop, but it doesn't really matter. As you can see, we'll just kill it here with this volley of souls. So yeah, that's definitely a very easy way to be defeating this boss. As you can see, you pretty much just walk a few tiles. You don't have to do any bladed dives or anything like that. So I would highly suggest doing something like that, especially if you're learning or you want to be doing the easiest possible kills without having to deal with the R-hats or anything like that. Definitely a pretty simple method. And then we just come over here and we kill these 2 cloaked zealots here. Very easy to kill these. And now we have to deal with the Death Lotus rogues. So you can see in this hallway, there are these Death Lotus rogues, this pack of 3 of them that are walking. These guys are incredibly dangerous. I like to use Threads of Fate on these and Volley of Souls them to be insta-killing them. You can see it just insta-kills them. I really would highly suggest doing that because if you don't kill them very quickly, they will start spinning and spamming out so many range hits that even with Protect Range, you're probably going to die in just a few game ticks. So you can, pray range and devotion, but it's much easier just to nuke them out really quickly. And then we just kill those 3 zealots like you saw there. And we go through this entire section here. We don't have to kill any of these monsters. We just have to kill the 1 cloaked zealot you can see here at the end. Mobile definitely helps for this room, but I guess I took it off my gear. So that's pretty nice, I guess. But yeah, mobile is definitely going to help you for this room quite a bit, but all we have to do here is kill this 1 zealot, and then we can continue on the dungeon. You can see there's 3 zealots here by the staircase, and we will just have to kill these 3 zealots as well. Very easy, and I like to be scything these down. So we will stand in the center of them and scythe, and then scythe again, and we should be able to kill them here very easily, just like that. And then you can see we look up the stairs, and there are 6 of these zealots we have to kill, so definitely be using your Threads of Fate for these 6 things here. So I kind of griefed myself. Let me auto retaliate. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, so I like to be using like a Threads of Fate here as well as like a Scythe cast if you need to, just to be nuking those out as fast as possible. It's kind of weird with Revolution, like you'll just randomly cast stuff, but and like you kill things so fast that kind of runes your auto retaliates and stuff. You're just standing there wasting your Threads of Fate, but you should be able to get those down pretty easily. So after we kill these 2 Sakura Dagami thingies here, we get into a very dangerous room. You can see these Hanto Sellswords. These creatures are very dangerous, so we're going to let them target us and then surge all the way to the back of the room. We have to kill the Hanto Sellswords in order to open the doorway here, but if these guys are standing melee distance to you, they can absolutely wreck your world, much like the those rangers I was telling you about. They just start like spinning and like destroying you. So I like to use Threads of Fate on these guys. Make sure you're focus firing the Hanto Sellswords down and killing them as fast as possible, because again, they are an incredibly dangerous monster if they get melee distance to you. But as you can see, you can lure them behind all these other guys over here, and it's very easy to be dealing with them. And then we just scythe down the rest of the guys. And then we can surge and dive this way like you saw in a square. There is one of those rangers in the corner here. You can see if you do that surge dive like I did, it will completely, like, they won't see you. But most of the time, this guy here might see you, and you should probably focus him down if he does see you. And then we just have to kill all these zealots here by the doorway. These are very easy to kill. And then we are into Masuda. So Masuda is probably one of the more difficult bosses in the entire game. It's just really like a bad fight. But I like to start this fight with protection from melee on, and make sure you're starting the fight before these guys get through this gateway here. You can see they get stuck behind it, but they will be able to lure in. So definitely keep an eye on that and start the fight quickly. You can see, so Masuda starts spinning here, and then we will put on protect melee and devotion to be offsetting this spin. As you can see, this will block pretty much all of the damage here. But if you don't use devotion, even with protect melee, it can absolutely shred you. So definitely be ready to use your devotion for that spin attack. And then he will put these purple things on the floor here in a second. And when he collects the purple things, he will do a giant magic hit for each one he collects here. So you can see he's about to do this giant magic hit. So you can put protect magic on like this and block this hit. Or, you know, you can tank it. It hits about a 6k and then put pray melee back on. But yeah, it hits about a 6k, so definitely be wary of that hit. And you can see here, in a second, he will start another spin, I think after the next attack or so. You can see he starts another spin, and as you can see, we can be pretty far away from this boss, and he will still be hitting us with the spin. You can see he's hitting us still somehow. So definitely be very careful with the spin. You're not going to have devotion for that one probably. And yeah, it can be very dangerous. So one little trick here, once you phase him at 250k, basically we're going to be ignoring all of the water spouts that spawn up there. And the way to be doing that is you can see how I'm stepping underneath Masuda, and he is going towards the wall back here, towards the south wall. You can see here, you just spam click underneath him and lure him towards the back wall. And this should make it so you only have to kill the water spouts here in this like big circular arena, and everything that spawns above the staircase you can just completely ignore. You can see here these ones are spawning up there and they're not able to do any damage to us. Should probably use like an invoke death on Masuda as well, just to be getting this on him. And then you can literally just stand here and let yourself rebuild, or you just sit here and kill these water spouts here that spawn below the staircase like this. And I generally try to get to 100% here during this phase transition. You can see he sits here in the sky forever, and it's like the Blackstone Dragon where you're just standing around doing nothing for the longest time. It's a very like terrible mechanic. I really wish they had to rework this mechanic. It's absolutely a grief. But you can see here, we're just gonna rebuild up, reconjure here, and then we will be killing these water spouts when they spawn. And yeah, just make sure you're reconjuring here, not wasting all of your adrenaline, hopefully on, you know, whatever. And then you can see Masuda has some text above his head, and that means he will restart the fight. So we are just going to use Living Death here. And then we should probably be protect from magic. You want to be protecting from magic during this final phase. You can see he did that giant water attack again. We got pretty lucky and it didn't actually hit us, but you can see it will like be able to hit you sometimes, I guess. I don't really know. It's like dependent on how many of the water spouts he collects or whatever, but those magic hits can hit like 6k again. So definitely just be praying magic. And then you can tank all these range hits. Like you can see, they don't really hit that hard, and you should be able to out heal them with the ghost. And then we should be able to just revo this guy down very easily like this. Or my invoke death went away, but you can see there it hit a 3000 through prayer. So definitely be pretty careful of that. And then this is very important. So before we go through this doorway, make sure you're either standing around with your persistent rage to get above 50% adrenaline, or attack these little guys down here to get above 50%. These defense pylons will absolutely ruin your day if you don't use devotion for them and protection from magic. So you can see here, I just rebuild my adrenaline while standing up here. Again, you could manually be attacking those little creatures after Masuda to be building up to at least 50%. But what I like to do here is pre-conjure, run up here. You can surge, dive diagonally, and then we use devotion here. We only have to kill the center pylon and these two by the chest. The rest of these you can ignore, but you definitely want to be killing these and extending your Devo like that. So extend that Devo. We'll manually cast a Finger of Death here to kill that one to extend the Devo again. And then we'll just like throw our volley out and kill that one. And then you can see here that did actually open up the gate. But you can see how many little magic hits those guys do. They will absolutely shred you if you don't use devotion and extend it multiple times like you saw me do. So definitely be paying attention and using your devotion for that, because otherwise you pretty much just have to sit here and spam eat, which is no fun. But now we are on to Seiryu. So Seiryu is a relatively difficult boss fight, but it doesn't really hit that hard, and as long as you do the mechanics correctly, it shouldn't really be too bad. The boss fight really only has one dangerous mechanic, and that is the V-shaped hands that spawn. Those can definitely kill you. They hit like 4,500 damage per game tick if you stand in them, and they spawn right next to this arena here. The other mechanics that Seiryu will do is he will like change the color of the room, and then there'll be like a little spot with an arrow on the ground, and then, you know, when the room stops being color changed or whatever, a little line of black hands will go from that spot to you, and you know, all you have to do is simply run away from it a few tiles and it will like move past you, obviously. The other mechanic is the tail will slam, so definitely be zoomed out like this and just have your peripheral vision watching the tail, but the tail will slam and it'll have a black spot under your feet. You just run away from that very simply. And then the final mechanic is going to be Seiryu's huge breath. You can see here how on the arena next to the little ledge here, there is this first line that is like right by Seiryu's chin here. As long as you're standing south of this line, like towards this wall over here, you will be able to just stand there and the giant breath will not be able to hit you because you can see you are behind his mouth. And then after you get Seiryu, you can see he has 7.5 million HP. After you get Seiryu to 7.2 million HP, you jump up on the ledges over here and then you kill the black crystals on Seiryu's back, which we'll get into. But those are really the only mechanics here. Like I said, Seiryu is a relatively straightforward boss. It is kind of dangerous, but once you get the hang of it, it is pretty easy. So let's start this up here. Surge the wrong way, nice. And yeah, we'll just start attacking Seiryu here, definitely chuck a Vol Bomb on him, and then we'll just continue to DPS him down. So you can see here, the little tail moved and the black spot will appear under our feet. We just run away from that, and then you can see we get a message for the huge breath. We step back, and then you can see the huge breath doesn't do any damage to us because we are behind Seiryu's head. Got another black spot, walk away from that, and then we continue to just pretty much revo this guy down. I like to save my living death for the crystals, so definitely don't be wasting it. I would just save it for the crystals here. But yeah, you could use a tier 95 spec here. You could probably split soul right off the bat. You can see Seiryu had the little line of hands, very easy to dodge that. It didn't even make us to it, or make it to us. And then you can see the huge breath. We just stepped back and dodged it. But you can see here, in a second, there will be those V-shaped hands. You can see here, one of them spawns. And this is the most dangerous mechanic. So definitely be keeping an eye out for that mechanic because it can definitely just insta-kill you, especially if you're standing back by the ledge thing over here. You know, it'll spawn like really close to you. Like you can see there, if that spawned right on top of you, it would be pretty dangerous. But you can see we get him to 7.2 million HP here. And then we just jump up on the shackle right here. And then we will kill the black crystal. So we will invoke death on this, Vol Bomb it, and build up to 100% here for our living death. So build up to 100%. We will living death, Adren Pot. We'll throw out a Death Skulls, and then we can use like a Split Soul here to be pumping out as much damage as we possibly can. Manually cast our Volley of Souls because we have 5 stacks. But yeah, you just want to be killing this one crystal as fast as possible. I'm not going to be doing a one cycle in this video. This is mostly just going to be a low effort revo method. But you can see we killed the crystal, and now I'm just going to stand around. So I'm just going to stand here and let these things come into Seiryu and Uber heal. Basically, when these Shadow Enigma blobs touch Seiryu, you can see these black things coming up to Uber heal Seiryu. So what we're going to do here is reconjure, re-invoke death, hit the conjure again, and then we will Vol Bomb this and use our Death Skulls here. And then you can see the Uber heals are coming through. We will be doing a bunch of damage here, and then we will get pulled down here. We'll get it to about half HP, and that'll be good enough. But when these blobs get to the center of the room, it will pull you down and then stun you. So you see we get pulled down, stunned, use freedom, and then just start tagging the blobs. You could use like Threads of Fate or whatever to be killing these as fast as possible. Don't let them touch, like this one's about to touch, die, little rat. And as you can see, if you do get a breath while you're standing out here, you can just pray magic. It doesn't really hit that hard, like 3,000 through prayer is not really too bad. But yeah, you definitely want to be killing those blobs and making sure they don't Uber heal the boss, because that would not be very good. It'd kind of ruin your 2 cycle and make it a 3 cycle, which is no fun. Nobody wants to do that. But yeah, even still, a 2 cycle is kind of long. But The money here is pretty good, so it's not really that big of a deal. So see, breath, I'm gonna walk back here, dodge the breath, and then we will just be able to kill Seiryu here. The only thing you have to be wary of is that V-shaped line of hands. You can see one spawns there. We're just gonna run away from it to the opposite side, and you should be pretty good. And just have to be dodging these things. Pretty easy to notice the tail once you get the hang of it. I mean, you just like kind of see it happening out of the side of your eye, and it's very easy. So you can see here, another V-shaped hand. So we're gonna walk across here, and then we will just continue to DPS this thing down again to 7.2 million HP. And then once you get him to 7.2 million HP, you want to walk up on the opposite side we did before, to be killing the crystal on the opposite side here. So then we can kill the one in the center last. So you can see here, we are right about to get him to 7.2 million. He's at 7.2, and now we're just gonna jump up on the opposite side shackle here, and then be busting down the this black crystal here. So Vol Bomb it, Living Death, Adren Pot, and then just DPS it down here with Death Skulls and Split Soul. So get that out. Guess we have to reconjure, which is a bit unfortunate, but whatever. You should be fine if you have to reconjure. And then, yeah, you can see we should be able to bust this out pretty easily with Split Soul and Living Death. As you can see, the Death Skulls do a ton of damage, and we should be able to kill this pretty quickly, especially since it's invoked death. And yeah, you can see here, it'll die, and then we go on to the final crystal here right in the middle, and we should easily be able to kill this before these blobs hit. As you can see, we'll just use like a manual cast here, volley, and it will kill it. Very, very easy. As you can see, that was a 452. Not the fastest kill in the world, but a very, very low effort 2-cycle. And we can unfilter the chat, and we got 37 ancient scales. So that is definitely a pretty decent drop. I think that's what, about like 45 mil or something like that. So for that very slow 20-minute run or whatever, like I did, we got about 40 mil. So that's definitely very good. And you could easily be going faster than what you see. Obviously, I was like standing around talking about the bosses and stuff before I started. So you could probably be getting about 15-minute runs here once you get the hang of it. So definitely an incredibly profitable method for all of the people out there that like Revo Necromancy. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this video helped some people get their first Temple of Aminishi runs done. Like I said in the intro, this is definitely one of the most difficult dungeons in the entire game, but once you get the hang of it, you can truly make some ridiculous money here. You should be able to get anywhere from like 20 to like 25-minute dungeon runs with relatively low effort. And once you start getting into faster and faster methods, you could probably get some around 15-minute full dungeon runs. So you can definitely be making some extremely high amounts of GP here. So yeah, hopefully you guys like this video. If you made it this far, definitely drop a like on it. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.